Alright, we're going to factor out the GCF of the following polynomial of 18x cubed y squared minus 24x squared y. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw some factor trees here so I can find the factors of these terms. 18, I broke it up into 2 times 9, and then I broke up 9 into 3 times 3. X cubed is x times x times x. Y squared is y times y. 24 is 4 times 6, and then I can break the 4 into 2 times 2, and 6 can be rewritten as 2 times 3. And make sure I cross out the 6 since I factored it out. X squared is x times x, and y is just a y. Alright, I'm going to circle the factors so that way I don't accidentally forget one of these factors from the terms, because I'm going to be using all these factors to find the GCF, which is the greatest common factor of these two terms. So it looks like I got them all circled so I won't forget one. Let's rewrite the factors of the 18x cubed y squared first. Okay, so the factors of this term were, let me scoot that 2 over just a little bit so I have a little bit more space. 2 times 3 times 3 times x times another x times y times y. And now I'm going to write out the factors of the 24x squared y. So that's 2 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 2 factors of x, and then 1 factor of y. Now let's look for the factors that these two terms have in common. I'm going to highlight those in yellow. They both have in common a factor of 2, they have in common a factor of 3, have in common a factor of x, another factor of x, and they also have in common a factor of y. So the GCF is going to be made up of one of each of these common factors here. So I know I'm going to have a factor of 2, a factor of 3, 2 factors of x, and I'm also going to need a factor of y in the GCF. So let's see what we get when we multiply these factors together. 2 times 3 times x times another x times y. That's going to give me a 6x squared y. So let me just go ahead and write that down. That's going to be 6x squared y. Alright, now that we found the GCF, we're ready to start factoring out the GCF from the polynomial. So I'm going to have to rewrite this polynomial so that you can see that factor of 6x squared y factored out of it. Let me copy the original polynomial. Go copy. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to paste it down here. That way I don't have to rewrite the whole thing all over again. Oops, my y is missing part of the y there. And I'm going to set it equal to what it's going to look like factored out. It's going to look like this. It's going to look like 6x squared y times the quantity of some term minus another term. Now these two terms are going to be different terms. Why don't I show that by making one a box and then one a circle. I need to find those two terms that are going to be left over once I factor out the 6x squared y. So I'm going to show this step by step how you would find these terms, these leftover terms. So basically what we have to do is we have to take the terms of the original polynomial and divide them by the GCF. You know, that's what it means when you factor something out. We're going to factor the greatest common factor outside of the parentheses, while inside the parentheses, what's going to be left over is the original terms divided by the GCF. Now, since I like to show every single little step, I'm going to write out these terms factored out so you can see me actually cancel out the common factors. So let's write the 18x cubed y squared all factored out, and I just happen to have all of those factors for the 18x cubed y squared. Earlier we found them to find the GCF, so let me kind of circle those in green highlighter. Okay, so those are it. Let's copy them down. And then let's divide it by the 6x squared y. And let's also write that factored out. I just happen to have the factors right there in red from earlier. So let me just copy those down. And then we're going to go minus, because there was a minus in between the terms of the polynomial. Let's write the 24x squared y factored out. I just happen to have it right here, all factored out. And after we write it all factored out, we're also going to write the 6x squared y again factored out underneath it, so I can cancel out common factors. So I'm canceling out all the common factors that are in the numerator and the denominator. Now let's see what is left over. Which factors were left over? Let's see, we had a 3 left over in the numerator, an x left over in the numerator, and a y. Minus, and in the second numerator we had a 2 and a 2, so we're going to be multiplying those two 2's together. So this is going to be 6x squared y times the quantity of, now multiply those factors together, we're going to get 3xy minus 4. And that's our final answer. Those represent the factors of the original polynomial. Now, I just wanted to show you that we could have found these terms that are left over inside the parentheses earlier if we had looked at what we had factored out here when we found our GCF. Notice that for the 18x cubed y squared, notice what I like to call them the leftover factors were. All the factors that were not highlighted yellow. Let's see, I'm going to highlight them green. There was a 3, an x, and a y. That just happens to be the same factors that we used that we had for our first term inside the parentheses. Let me circle those to really emphasize this. 3xy. And that's exactly what we had in our final answer. 3xy. And the same thing happened with the 24x squared y. Look, notice what the leftover factors were for that term. 2 and a 2. And 2 times 2 just happens to be 4. And, you know, this isn't a coincidence. This is always going to happen. And I think it's important to realize this relationship that these numbers have with their factors. When you factor something out, what's going to be left over are those leftover factors. And there it is, 4. So that's our answer. All right, thanks.